Hello friends, welcome to the second episode of the topic State in Islam. As you are aware, in the first part of the lecture, we discussed meaning, scope and features of Islamic State, and today we will be talking about various parameters and criticism of the Islamic concept of the state. The various characteristics and parameters of an Islamic state are enlisted as follows. First, Amir or the Caliph. For administrative purposes, the executive branch of the Islamic State is entrusted to an Amir, the leader. The basic qualification for the selection of an Amir or the leader are that he should command the confidence of the general consensus of the people in respect of his knowledge, the virtues, competence, piety, and commitment to the principles of Islam. He should possess the Islamic attribute of fear of Allah. He should be endowed with the quality of statesmanship. In short, he should be both able and virtuous. He doesn't inherit the seat of caliphate through hereditary lineage or a coup or against the wishes of majority. The Amir, though chosen for life, but can be removed if he loses the confidence of majority. In the Islamic history, we have various examples like that of Imam Hussain, Abdullah ibn Zubair, and others who fought against the Amirs as they were unpopular rulers who had usurped the seat of caliphate on the basis of coercion or hereditary lineage, and they had lost the confidence of the majority. Now the second aspect of this Islamic state is Shura, the consultative council. The Holy Quran says, the Muslims conduct their affairs by mutual consultations. A shura, elected by the people, will assist and guide the Amir. The Amir is elected by the shura. It's obligatory for the Amir to administer the country with the advice of his shura. The Amir can retain office only so long as he enjoys the confidence of the shura and must resign when he loses this confidence. The shura is the representative of the aspirations of the people, whose members themselves are chosen from the masses by their consent based on their competence, piety and knowledge. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, during his lifetime, whether going on battles of Badr or Uhud or taking any other collective decision, always sought to consult and implement the majority decision or the consensus arrived by the shura. Every citizen has the right to criticize the Amir and his government, and all responsible means for the expression of public opinion should be available. Also, the shura retains the power of veto over the decisions of the Amir. Hence, it also acts as a check over the executive of the state. Now, the process of the selection or election of the Amir and shura. Though the process of election isn't described in Islam, and it's left open for the Muslims to choose what suits them the best in their own social and political milieu. The shura and Amir can be selected either through a process of voting or nomination by the masses. Adult franchise, as practiced today, can be incorporated for electing the suitable candidates to the seats of power, but the electoral suffrage needs to be educated and competent enough to elect the best candidates, avoiding the pitfalls of modern process of elections where muscle and money power rules the roost. The type of the government. Islam hasn't envisaged a particular type of government for its state. It describes broad parameters within which the government can be constituted. It has also left this option open for Muslims who may better judge and impose the type of government that appears suitable for them. This type of government grants limited sovereignty to people and rulers, but rulers can remain in power only when they command the confidence and trust of masses. The judiciary. Islam provides for an independent judiciary. The judiciary in Islamic State is not placed under the control of the executive. It derives its authority directly from the Sharia and is supposed to uphold principles of Islam, including rule of law, justice, grievance redressal, and ensuring accountability and transparency in the conduct of state affairs. The judges will obviously be appointed by the government, but once appointed will have to administer justice impartially according to the law of Allah. All the organs and functionaries of the state government should come within their jurisdiction. Even the highest executive authority of the government will be liable to be called upon to appear in a court of law as a plaintiff or defendant. The example of fourth Caliph Ali is illustrious in this manner, as he was called along with his son and slave to give testimony in the court, where the judge Qazi Shari gave ruling against the Caliph based on the facts presented before the court. Rulers and ruled are subject to the same law, and there can be no discrimination on the basis of position, power, or privilege. Islam stands for equality and scrupulously adheres to this principle in the social, economic, and political realms alike. Freedom of speech. Every citizen of the Islamic State has the right to propagate his ideas, worldview, and religion without disturbing the system, sowing seeds of rebellion, or resorting to armed confrontation to overthrow the state. Freedom to uphold one's own worldview. Islamic State, unlike totalitarian or dictatorial states, doesn't believe in forcing and imposing its own worldview over its citizens, both Muslim as well as non-Muslims. The state in Medina is a testimony to this fact. The Jews in Medina were free to propagate and practice their own religion. Also, during the time of fourth Caliph Ali, he allowed the Kharjis, that was a sect, to propagate their views so long as they did not use violence to impose their views and threaten to overthrow the state. The dispensation of justice. The justice is to be done and rendered to all citizens irrespective of their religion, gender, and region. Even the Amir doesn't enjoy the impunity from law, despite holding the reins of power. If he has wronged somebody, he is supposed to present himself and the justice is to be dispensed. The rule of law. The rule of law is similar for those in power and out of power. None enjoys impunity from law and freedom from being punished if one is found guilty. We find numerous examples during the time of Prophet and four caliphs when Islamic judicial rulings were carried out without any prejudice or consideration of the accused or the complainant. Welfare activities. It is the responsibility of the government to cater about the welfare activities of its citizens that include providing better health care, education, sanitation, living standards, etc. Accountability. The Amir-led executive is always accountable to the Shura for implementation of its policies and conducting its affairs, hence indirectly to the people. We find an example in the life of the second Caliph, Umar. While preaching in the mosque, he was stopped and questioned before the congregation by Salman Farsi about the length of his garment, while all had got the same length piece, how the piece sufficed him as he was quite tall. Umar answered by stating that his son Abdullah ibn Umar, who was present in the congregation, gave his share of cloth to him that resulted in his long garment. Now the transparency. All the affairs of the governance and the implementation of the policies are carried out in the most transparent manner, and any clandestine undertaking or agreement is declared illegal. Imposing Islamic system. The Islamic system of laws, moral values, enjoining good and forbidding evil is imposed by the Islamic State within its ambit and reach. No compromise in this regard is entertained. Baitul Mal, the state treasury. The state treasury is treated as repository of public trust. The taxes collected from the citizens through various sources and for different reasons are collected in state treasury to be spent on welfare activities of the people and the state. The Amir isn't allowed or eligible to use these state funds for his personal benefits or luxuries, but he is only a trustee of this revenue and must see that it's spent rightly. The rights of the Zimmis, that is the protected minorities in an Islamic state. The non-Muslim minorities in an Islamic state are the protected minorities. The state in Islam being an ideological one, hence those who don't accept its creed must remain as protected minorities within it. The able-bodied men are also entitled to pay jizya as tax, as they are exempted from fighting for the protection of the Islamic State. The Zimmis are free to conduct their own religious affairs, propagate it, and also build new places of worship too. The foreign affairs. The Islamic State is free to enter in trade agreements and treaties with other countries, both Muslim and non-Muslim, but the Islamic State is bound not to breach the treaty without any genuine reason. Over the centuries, Islamic State seems to have inculcated many connotations and working style from the modern political institutions as evolved over time that is a testimony to its dynamic nature. The state and its impact is still diverse and deep on human life. Hence, Islam lays down certain guidelines to run it on those lines that will make its influence oriented towards welfare, justice, peace, protection of the downtrodden, upholding human rights, accountability, and transparency. The state in Islam is egalitarian in its character while at the same time upholding commandments of God. Islamic State, as established by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and evolved under the righteous caliphs, is tolerant, pluralistic, accountable, institutional, and welfare-oriented in its nature. It stands apart from other concepts of state, but it also has similarities with them in certain respects and aspects. Islamic State can coexist with other states in our present times, and its unique nature and vibrancy can only be realized once it starts functioning. Now the conclusion. The concept of the state in Islam derives its legitimacy from religion and is supposed to uphold its principles and guidelines. Islamic State can't exist without a religious basis, but that doesn't retrograde it to a pure theocracy because clergy plays no role in the affairs and conduct of the state. It's democratic, plural, and dynamic in its nature, though its functioning is different from those of other democracies and political systems. The present century has witnessed a renewed zeal for the establishment of Islamic State in many Muslim countries, as Muslim masses have been bearing the brunt of dictatorships, monarchies, and totalitarian regimes. They want a change and see it in the establishment of an Islamic State, which is being described as the best prescription and antidote to the flaws of governance, polity, and statecraft. This passion has been renewed through the vigorous efforts of Muslim revivalist movements that aim for the establishment of an Islamic State. This passion has met resistance at the hands of its critics too, but still the drive for establishing an Islamic State hasn't died down. This renewed zeal hasn't been without criticism, as the concept of state in Islam has come under heavy criticism from various quarters, and this criticism has been both inter- and intra-Muslim. The most vehement criticism has been that in Islam there is no concept of a well-defined modern state, but only a few guidelines are given that are impractical and too utopian to be followed in the complex present-day world of nation-states. These critics espouse that in Islam there is a concept of hizb, jama, and ummah, not of states confined within a boundary. Another criticism leveled against the protagonists and activists of Islamic State is the fact that much violence and bloodshed in Muslim countries has occurred between Muslim revivalists and secularists, because of the movement for establishment of an Islamic state. The critics too state that the Islamic State is discriminatory when it comes to the rights of non-Muslims. They also quote various verses from Holy Quran trying to espouse this point that establishing an Islamic State isn't a fundamental duty or principle of Islam, but just a reward to believers from God for upholding the principles of Islam, doing good and righteous deeds. These rewards is accompanied by responsibilities and test from Allah, because those to whom the state power is granted must not abuse it, but establish regular prayers and do good deeds and fill the earth with mercy, justice, peace and discipline. The critics uphold that capture of state power isn't the ultimate aim of Islam, but reformation of an individual and society is, who when reformed will lead an end to the malpractices and abuse of state power. Despite the flaws, shortcomings and criticism espoused against the Islamic State, it remains a fact that over the centuries, Islamic State seems to have inculcated many connotations and working style from the modern secular institutions as evolved over time and is a testimony to its dynamic nature. The state and its impact is still diverse and deep on human life, hence Islam lays down certain guidelines to run it on those lines that will make its influence oriented towards welfare, justice, peace, protection of the downtrodden, upholding human rights, accountability and transparency. The state in Islam is egalitarian in its character while at the same time upholding commandments of God. Also, a word of caution needs to be added in this context. As Islam emerged more than 14 centuries back when society was less complex, its requirements were elementary and size of population was smaller. Human society in modern times has gained complexity and diffusion. Therefore, taking up a model from the past and superimposing it on modern situations literally in its entirety is not going to be feasible. However, what is valid is to infer and draw the broad and fundamental principles of Muslim political life from its classical time period and apply them creatively in modern situations is going to be the fundamental to what an Islamic state in modern times is going to be. So friends, we conclude the topic State in Islam. In this second part of the lecture, we discussed various parameters of Islamic State and some criticism of the concept. Hope you have understood fully. See you again with a new topic. Till then, goodbye.